Hello, and welcome to the Kaizen Academy podcast. I'm Justin, and I'm here with my co-host Cal. So today we're going to be talking about a question that we sometimes talk about. Is school useless? I think we hear this sentiment sometimes, Cal,
Yeah,
and we've talked about this before, and I think we've got some hot takes on this topic. So
I feel like a very polarizing topic to be talking about, especially in this
it really
climate.
is. Yeah, yeah. So kind of to give more context, a lot of the times you'll hear things like high school is kind of useless. It doesn't really help you with real life afterwards, or like uni afterwards. When are you actually going to learn or use the things that you learn at school?
Yeah,
Shouldn't you be learning things that are more applicable to real life? And there's a lot to unpack in these types of questions, because there definitely is merit in asking these questions, right? Because there's something there, like students can't see what they're learning is actually applicable down the line, which is not great. But I think we do have some interesting points to talk about.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's definitely frustrating, isn't it? Like when you put so much effort, or you're forced to put so much effort into something, and then you find out later on, like you end up doing something completely different. You find some of the skills that you might have learned aren't fully, I guess, they don't come to fruition, right? You don't see the fruits of that labor, and I understand the sentiment. I understand where it comes from, but like we've mentioned, it's a bit of a hot take. It's a bit of a hot take, but we've got a couple of hot takes of our own, I guess.
so the first thing I kind of wanted to talk about, which I think is at the core of this discussion, is that yes, most things you learn in school, what you're explicitly taught, you will never need to use again. But actually, the most valuable things that you do learn aren't what you're explicitly taught. It's
Yeah,
what you implicitly learn through doing these subjects. Things like perseverance, like being able to work through adversity, working with other people. You've got like your cohort. Um, you you can help other people. You can learn from them. Sometimes they'll put you in like little group projects. You have to be in a classroom. You have to
yeah,
learn those like social skills. That's like one of the biggest things that you learn at school, right? It's it's to socialize you. Um,
yeah.
and I think the biggest one is learning how to learn. That's what you're learning at school. It's not it's, you're learning physics, but more importantly, you're learning how to learn physics, and that
Wow.
skill is
Yes.
what's going to be helping you down the line. And we'll delve into
Amen.
this like
Amen.
later.
Yeah, for sure.
Amen.
I
Amen.
think that's so powerful. Like when you said that, it's just like, I mean, we talk about this all the time, right? But I think it's something that I don't know. I never thought until so much later on, like deep into uni, I didn't even realize that the whole point of going through so much schooling is that you learn how to school yourself, so that you can school yourself with whatever you want. Like, it's and then when it clicked, I was just like, my God, it makes me feel so powerful. I feel so empowered that you guys have given me that. It's like,
This
I know
this
it's
power,
cliche, but it's like, what is it? Teach a man to fish or whatever. Like, give a man a fish. You know that business, right?
yeah, he'll eat for a
That,
day, teach a man to fish, he'll eat for his life. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But like, that's kind of like what they do, right? Like, I don't know. But yeah, I think once I realized that and really like thought about it, I was like, wow, like I feel so empowered. The sky's the limit now. Really, truly is the sky's the limit. You can, if I truly put my mind to anything, I really can, take that thing on. But yeah, learning how to learn. Wow.
And I think another thing as well is that I think I've started appreciating it more as I've gotten older. But I think often as kids we kind of expect too much out of school. We expect school to be perfect. We expect our governments to be perfect. But once you get a bit older and you adopt more of a problem solving mindset, you're put more into these positions where you're actually the ones running things, right? You can see that everyone is struggling, right? The adults, they don't know like perfectly what to do. Everyone's still on their own learning journey. So yeah, school isn't ideal. Like it can't cultivate like a certain people. They're being left out because it's not perfectly designed for them. But you can't expect a schooling system to be perfect and to adapt to like every single person's unique needs. School is there to give you a good baseline of education, and you can't expect it to be like what sets you up for the rest of your life. It's a good baseline that they're going to give you, and a lot of what's going to come in your life is taking ownership of everything above that. If you want to be an outlier, you can't do what everyone else is doing. You've got to appreciate the baseline that the school gives you, and in your own time push yourself to be someone that's like, I don't know, super successful.
Yeah, no, for sure. I remember reading, I think it was Visible Learning, and like one of the stats that he threw in there was just like the like if you look at the years the years of high school and the year in which you choose to drop out, with an extra year of schooling, actually it wasn't even high school, it was just schooling in general, but like, and this is a trend, and trends are generalized, and this is not applying to everyone, but it's a good indicator of what the situation truly is. But it was just like simply, with an extra year of schooling for most people, like your wage is going to jump up by like a significant amount. This is going to jump up by a significant amount. Your standard of living jumps up by a significant amount. It's just everything improves. Obviously there is, like asterisks, I'm sure so many people out there ready to be like, yeah, but like, blah, 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 this, that. But like, there is, we're real with this. There is some kind of point where, there is what is it? Freaking... What's that word where it's like you lose the benefits as you gain? What I completely forgot. It's completely slipped my mind. Like, obviously you can take as many schooling years as you want, and with every extra year it improves. But, if you...
Diminishing returns.
If you're stuck... Right, perfect. Thank you, Justin. But like, if you stack on like 10 years of learning, there's definitely diminishing returns. Sorry, that was the word. Right at the end. But still, the general trend is, for anyone out there, adding a year of schooling to your life is just a net benefit, and it's always going to be helpful regardless. So I'm sure they're doing something right? So it's kind of, it feels a bit misguided to just be like, yeah, this system, straight trash. It's no thought has been put into the system, and then it's like all the educators out there like, are you serious? Like I devoted my life for this, and it's like this year 12 kid that's just graduated. Yeah, nah, your system's trash. Like, there is value in your opinion, definitely, because you are the student, you're the one actually going through it. But be mindful. There is so much effort, and like you're saying, you come to appreciate it, and I think that's so true. You go into a job, and you're like, man, this workplace is a mess. Like, some workplaces can't even hold their own down, let alone try to set up a curriculum, a syllabus for a whole state. Like, that's crazy. And in order for them to pull that off, I think even what we have right now, so far from perfect, is still so impressive that they managed to do something like that. And most students have this opinion until they enter like further schooling, right? I think the second we joined uni, it was like, oh, you know what, like school was pretty good. Uni's straight trash. Like, these guys don't know what the hell they're doing. Everything is all over the place, right?
And they straight up don't care, like if you learn or not at uni. It's like,
exactly.
You're on your own.
Straight up.
We need to really appreciate the hand holding that high school does give us. It's like, yep, here's the path to follow. We've laid out everything for you. If you start straying from it, we'll help guide you on the way. Even if it's like kind of against your will. We'll help you like as much as we can. We're really looking out for you. At uni, it's like, yeah, we'll help you out, like, if you ask, but you're really like on your own.
They don't even help you out when you ask sometimes. It's like, like how it's amazing how standardized schooling is. To standardize something, it's unbelievably difficult. You go to uni and they could barely get one subject down. They could barely figure out the curriculum for a single subject. And it's like, it's a complete mess sometimes. And obviously there are outliers, but you see that often, and it's not their fault. It's a difficult task. And I think for schools to pull it off, I still think it's something I learned to appreciate after. Definitely something that we appreciated in retrospect, not really like while we're in it. But yeah.
So just hold that in the back of your mind. Maybe eventually, like, you'll come to appreciate that. But for the context of students right now, the thing to focus on is that the most valuable things aren't what you explicitly learn. It's the underlying things. And we'll be like really delving into that. So the next section is just going to be a bunch of discussion points, kind of like different sentiments that I've seen sometimes, and I'm just going to bounce these off you, Kel.
Yeah.
So the first one is, I want to be X. So when am I going to use X in real life? An example is, I'm going to be a graphic designer, or I'm going to be a nurse. When am I ever going to use maths in real life? When am I going to use the Pythagoras theorem, or how to differentiate?
Yeah. I totally get it. I get it. I feel like we hear it so often. We see it so often. It's like, I can't do this, but thank God I can find the hypotenuse of this triangle, right? It's like, okay, buddy, like, come on. But I'm interested. What was it that you wanted to unpack about this? So I want to be this. I think there is some value, isn't it? Like, at the end of the day, that if you do something, like, let's say if I want to become an engineer, you do need to have some kind of maths background, science background, or something like that. You want to be in the general direction, right? I don't want to be doing humanities and then jumping straight into engineering, and then that's something where you're going to find yourself out of your depth, I guess. But there is some value to it. I'm sure you'd agree. But it's not definitive, because we also know so many people that have joined engineering which have never done like general maths and have done none of the above, just to kind of get them in, and still have just learnt their way through it, just kind of figured their way out. And there are, all those bridging courses and everything, like, and they've become like great engineers. So it's like, it's a good direction, because it always kind of points you in the right direction, I guess, if you're doing the right subjects. But yeah, I guess there is some value in that, but I'm not too sure if it's like definitive, I guess.
Yeah, and I think like one thing that you were kind of touching on then was, you don't know, like, or you can't really like define yourself like so early in your life, right? Just because you haven't gotten a great start with English, or you haven't gotten a great start with the sciences, doesn't mean you can't be a scientist down the line. It doesn't mean you won't develop an interest in that down the line. You don't really know where life is going to take you. I'm sure we've both pivoted like a couple times already in like the short time.
I'm the CEO.
In
I'm straight CEO of pivoting, bro.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing, but yeah, straight up, man. Like, yeah.
But yeah, like, you don't know where life is going to take you. You might have an idea that I want to be an engineer when you're in year 12, but you might like the idea of being an engineer. You might not actually like doing engineering. That's a very big difference. Actually doing the job, and you can't know if you're going to really enjoy it until you've actually done it. So you've got to really keep an open mind and kind of hedge your bets, and have at least a small basis in every single field. And I think nowadays as well, where the current like landscape of like the modern like workplace is moving towards, is things are becoming a lot more cross-disciplinary, right? You have things like data science, which is basically computer science, statistics, and like other domains. Other domains being like, it could be biology, it could be like medicine, it could be marketing. This is a very new field that's like really popping right now, and the only people who can go into these fields, these like amazing innovative fields, is people who have cross-disciplinary experience.
Yeah.
And if you just say you only studied marketing, for example, and then you don't have a basis in maths and all of this other stuff, there's no chance you could go into this field. Whereas if you've got like if you went to uni to like do marketing, but you've also got a solid basis in maths and stuff, potentially you could pivot into like new fields like that. So
yeah,
it's good to have a basis in everything.
Right, like, why not give yourself the best chance? That's the thing that, I guess, now looking back, it's so apparent, but back in high school, it wasn't something that even crossed my mind. So, every time I have my classes, I mean, they're graduating, they have already graduated, they're finishing off their exams now, and they're probably sick of me saying this, but it's always, please leave as many doors open as possible. Please, like, don't limit yourself, like, no matter how no matter how sure of yourself you feel right now, we can say that you will not be as sure in a few years. Like, you don't know what you want to do. And oh my God, sorry to tangent, Justin, but I feel like, have you seen the Blackpink? I know this is completely left field. Have you seen the
Yeah.
Blackpink documentary?
No, I haven't.
Oh, dude, you should watch it. But there's this
Okay.
one part in it that I wanted to bring up. And it was just Jisoo, she says, and it's like a really honest moment, because they always ask you, like, how did you know you wanted to do this? How did you know this? How did you know that? And then the story behind Jisoo is like she's had she joined the industry, became a trainee much later in her life compared to the other girls, and she had a lot more of a childhood. She had a lot more of a normal teenager life kind of thing. And like one moment, she was thinking, and she was like, there are few people in the world, full stop, that could actually that actually know what they truly want to do in their life. There are so few people in their life, because she was so adamant that she wanted to do something else, and then look at where she's turned up, right? In Blackpink. So it's like, and like just to hear it from her, because I always thought that was like something in my head. I was like, no way. I think growing up, I always thought, oh, like I confused hobbies and things that I like in life, and it's like that's completely misguided. Like I used to love reading airplane magazines and looking at planes and fighter jets. And then I was like, oh, I want to be aeronautical engineer. It's like, I guess, you can grasp from the things that you know or you kind of encounter throughout your life, but you got to make the distinction that, like, or you just got to understand that nothing's baked into your DNA, right? Nothing's baked into your DNA that, like, oh, I'm born, okay, this is my set life. No, like, it, and for some reason, I don't know why, this is just my take on it, but for some reason growing up, I thought that for so long. And so not being able to find that one true inspiration deep down in my DNA, like, oh, let me find this one thing that I absolutely love and I'm never going to work a day, that stressed me the heck out, like not being able to find that. And so I've gone on like a crusade of just trying to PSA all of my students, like, guys, no, this is not how it works. Please don't put yourself under this stress, like this immense like mental pressure that you give yourself, like, I have to find this, I have to find this. Like, no, like very few people out there have it. Very few people have that figured out very early on. And those people are absolutely blessed, awesome, right? Amazing. I want to become a doctor. Awesome. And they do it and they become amazing doctors. Awesome. But that's just not the norm, and you don't need to treat the world or treat yourself like one of those people. So I think I think that's a huge part. Just you don't know what you're gonna do, so don't limit yourself so early on. Like Justin was like you were just saying, Justin. Like there are so many fields that require so many different things, and you never know. Sometimes you fall into I feel like you fall into things like out of luck. It feels like out of luck, but they always say you create your own luck. So you give yourself, your best chance. And it's like, oh my God, this thing's opened up. I have the skills for that. The more skills you have, the higher chance of you actually finding these roles or whatever it is. So, yeah, just don't limit yourself. Don't tunnel yourself into one thing so early on, especially. And I mean, we're so young and we're saying like, oh, like we're talking as if like we're so wise. It's like, no, we don't even know yet. Like there are 30-year-olds out there that are like, man, these guys are idiots. Like they don't even know yet. So make sure that I'm not limiting myself right now, like at our age right now, right? So why would you limit yourself at 17 to like an ideal that you had, one night as a 16-year-old, like, oh, I want to be this thing, and then now let me lock myself to that ideal. It's like, yo, be chill, right? A lot of things can change.
Suits. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a lawyer now.
I have a friend genuinely who was like, yeah, that's why I became a lawyer. And I was like, yo, you're the maddest guy ever, bro. And he killed it. He's a genius.
Nice.
But he's not a lawyer anymore. He's like, I hate law because you have to do the two. You have to do law and something else at UNSW. And now he's just like, he's in finance. Like, I think he's in finance and he's just doing it big with his commerce degree. But yeah, he was like, I want to do law because I watched an episode of Suits. It might be a joke that because he was my old tutor teacher, but I believed him. I feel like there's some truth in that.
Okay, and I guess like another thing as well is that, okay, so taking the example of I'm going to be a graphic designer. When am I ever going to need to learn maths? You might not actually ever need to use maths specifically, but I feel like school gives you a nice range of subjects that fall into particular archetypes, right? I feel like maths is one archetype in itself. English is one archetype in and of itself. The sciences, they're one archetype in and of itself. And these games, I'm going to call them, there aren't that many of them out there, right? Maths, let's break it down. What is it? It's a very technical and skill-heavy subject. So it's something that requires you just have to do a lot of questions. You need to get in that practice, and that's how you get good at maths. And you kind of build up the behavioral, the habits to kind of do well in that subject. So, okay, you learn maths that way. What else is very technical and skill-heavy? Or graphic design, right? Maybe not as much so. I feel like there is a bit more theory to it, but at the end of the day, it's still a very skill-heavy field. It's all about getting in those hours of practice. And if you've done maths before, you know that you like feel deep down, I'm not good at graphics design at the moment. The answer is I just need to pump out like 100 different designs, and then that's how I'll get good at it. Or English is another game, right? It's a lot of research initially, and then you compile all your research, and then you pump out a project, that being your essay. Well, that's very common in the real world. If you're like doing a project, right, you're kind of doing your research, you're doing your like, I don't know, customer interviews or whatever first, and then you collate all of that, and then you start working on a project, and then you pump something out. There's all of these subjects, they have carryover. There's kind of, at least I feel like there are kind of distinct types, and there aren't that many out there, and having experience doing these different types of games will help you in real life, because you're going to encounter something of that type eventually.
Yeah, no, that's true. So it's like general directions, right? Like just kind of like north, east, south, west, bro. We're not trying to figure our exact career paths out in year 11. Like we're trying to give you, I'm saying we, like I actually designed the curriculum, sorry. Teachers out there are trying to give you like the best shot at everything, right? You don't know, they don't know, no one knows. So they've, like you said, Justin, they've designed just something so general, and I don't know, it gets ragged on so often. But yeah, I think taking a step back, it's like, what else did you want? Like, did you want to become an architecture in year 11? Like, do you want me to just start teaching you architectural stuff in year 11? Or did you want me to just start teaching you electrical engineering things in year 5? Like, what's going on here? We're going to roll it back to the womb? Like, what's going on? I think the world, things feel safer. It's nicer to comprehend with our brain when you tell yourself, I was just born to do something. Kind of like those fantasy books where it's like, I was born in this faction, I was born in this whatever, and it's like it makes things a little easier to comprehend, because I feel like life is just so scary sometimes. It's so hard to like process. Oh my god, like I have unlimited opportunities. What am I gonna do? So I can see how it's, myself included, like I think I've defaulted to that, like, I was born to do this. It makes it easier to like kind of like a bit of security, so I can sleep at night kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's like, man, you make your own path, and you just got to figure it out as you go, and just try, because that's the case, because you got to figure it out as you go. Try not to close too many doors too early on. I think that's all we got to say.
Very wise advice from Cow and Jisoo.
Oh yeah, actually, dude, I was like, oh, Jisoo's my favorite now, man. Like, she's spitting facts, bro. After she said that, I was like, so wise, queen.
Very, very wise. I might watch that, actually. That seems like a good one to watch.
Oh, for sure. I think you would enjoy it, though. Just because, already a big fan.
Okay. So the next discussion point, I think we wrapped up that last one pretty well. Schools should spend more time teaching like life skills, right? Things like doing my taxes, job hunting, budgeting, like, ooh, some people, these last two aren't as common, I think. But
Yeah.
like, oh, why don't they teach us about the political landscape, or like cooking, instead of these current subjects that are a bit more like abstract. They're not as tied to like everyday life.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you reckon, Kel?
I don't know. I can't help but like my knee jerk reaction to this is like, oh come on, man! Like, are you serious? Like, that's always my first reaction, and I know that shouldn't be, because I know that it comes from a good place. It definitely comes from a good place. This like, why don't you teach our kids to like survive out there in the wild? But sometimes I feel like, I don't know, is it a bit of a meme? Like it's something that's been blown out of proportion almost, because some of these things that you've mentioned, doing taxes and stuff like that, they don't require like a full subject to do. I don't need to take, I don't need to take like, like I don't need to take I don't know, job hunting.
Taxes 2 unit, job hunting
Taxes
3 unit.
3 unit, taxes extension 2, like, bro, I don't need to do that. That's called an accountant. Like, that person will handle it for me because they go to school and they figure out. I was talking to Ray with this, and he's like, yeah, it's a bit weird because, like, when you grow up, people do that stuff for you. Like, there are people specialized in managing your portfolio and stuff like that, your superannuation. There are professionals, right, that handle that. And you're telling me you want to do it. Okay, that means you're telling me you just want to be an accountant. So just do that in uni, right? That's what further education is literally designed for. But I guess more the smaller things like, oh, what about taxes and stuff like that? But even then, I can still run it all the way. It's like, yeah, you want to do taxes? Become an accountant. Like, you want to be like, freaking, you want to pay like $1 in tax for your $1 trillion like empire? Okay, go do like become an accountant, right? But I think a lot of those things, they get blown out of proportion because basic taxes or basic job hunting, budgeting, politics, or cooking, or whatever it is, right? Those things that we tend to hear, they might require like a seminar at most, I feel like, or maybe 2, right? Maybe a week seminar at school. And you know what's crazy? I was reading an article where schools are already doing this. And remember in year 10, I think we had literally a week where we spent mock interviewing, pretending that we were applying for a job and going through that. So we were taught those things. We were given that taste of what looking for a job was like. So it's like, it's not terrible. They're actually putting some effort in doing, running those things, running those programs. And like, I was reading an article where so one of the schools were teaching their kids how to like fix a wheel, or like replace a flat wheel, and all of those simple things. Doesn't take a full subject. It was just like a 1 evening seminar project, right? And I think, yeah, a lot of things that get spouted that we hear a lot. It's like, oh, like I was saying before, thank God I know how to find the hypotenuse of a triangle. It's like, but I can't even do my damn taxes. I'm like, okay, buddy, what? It requires like 1 seminar at most, So I think, yeah, a bit of, it's sensationalized. Oh my God, I've been looking for that word. It's been sensationalized a bit, like, to pull headlines like, oh my God, school is terrible. You should teach me this. I should be learning this. And yeah, I think most of the times, okay? I'm not going to be definitive on this statement. I think I won't die on this hill. But I'll say most of the things, they're a bit misguided. It's like, they don't need full subjects. Kids don't need to take 2 units of this or whatever like that. But yeah.
And I would even like put out there that, no, I don't like, I think for a lot of these, I don't think you need to be explicitly taught it at all, because things like doing your taxes, job hunting, budgeting, politics, cooking, the hope is that these tasks all have underlying skills as building blocks that will help you do that, right? So like taxes, you need a little bit of maths, you need to be able to read, you need to be able to like understand like what like my tax is telling you to do. But those are very basic skills that you learn in maths, that you learn in English. And potentially like business studies will help you a little bit, but not really. Like you have everything you need if you have done a little bit of maths and a little bit of English. And that's something that you should be able to teach yourself, because school can't teach you like all of these little things. They're teaching you the underlying skills that all of these little things use, and then ideally you're able to fill in the blanks yourself afterwards, because really these aren't that complicated.
And coming back to
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'll just come back to what you said right at the beginning. Learning to learn. It's like, yeah, we're going to teach you how to learn. Now go learn whatever the hell you need, right? These things, sometimes you just need to read through a website. Okay, this is how I do my taxes. Done. Okay, that's basically it.
And another point on this is that I'm quite convinced that explicitly teaching kids these things aren't a good use of your time, and it won't help them in the long run, because a lot of these things they change, right? How you do your taxes, it changes. Like even just like 20 years ago, you couldn't do these online. You had to like find an accountant. You had to do everything by paper. Now you can just do it like online. Things change like quite quickly, and I think what school should be teaching you are the core things that never change.
Universal things.
Like maths. Universal things. Maths, you're always going to need maths. Maths doesn't really change, at least like at this level. Writing, you're always going to like write in English. I think English won't change fast enough that it becomes irrelevant within your lifetime, right? Whereas these other things like politics, like current events, this will change, and it's not something that it will benefit you for like 2 years max, and then the landscape will change and it's no longer helpful. Job hunting landscapes do change, and when what you should be taught at school, and even by extension uni, they don't want to be teaching you these things that have a very short half-life, if you will. They're trying to teach you things that have a very long half-life. Like these things will last for the rest of your life, and this, like, you can bank on this core of knowledge not getting outdated.
Dude, you're spitting facts right now. I didn't even think of it like that. That's amazing, dude. Far out. Half-life. I like that analogy. I want to hit my kids with that one. Far out. I'm digging that. No, for sure. Like, we got to teach you these timeless things, man. Like, I can't teach you freaking about politics, and then what if we go into a fascist state, right? Like, what's going on now? No, I'm kidding. But like, yeah, like, that's so true. Fundamental, timeless, universal skills that will carry you through your life, literally. These things don't change. And I mean, that's the thing that I appreciate about the syllabus. They've designed it so that they're teaching you those very critical things, right? Those things that won't actually change over time. And imagine being the first person trying to write up a curriculum, man. And they're looking at all these things. They got taxes on the table. They got politics. They're like, what should we teach our kids? And they got to sort through all of that and figure out what is actually useful. And I think what they've arrived at is pretty damn decent. It's I got to give props to them. I just got to give props to them, because even in like you were saying, maths doesn't change very often, right? Science is something that changes quite a bit, but not as rapidly as you might see in like other things like doing your taxes or job hunting, whatever it is. And even some of those subjects, once in a while, they get revised, right? They have to get revised. And I'm sure students from this era, from this year, last year, 2 years ago, all know how grueling it is when the syllabus changes, how difficult things become, how hard it is to look for past papers, how hard it is to look for good resources when a syllabus makes minor adjustments. Imagine trying to keep these types of syllabi, curriculums, I'm going to go with the other one, these curriculums up to date every single year. What if it changes mid-year? Like, what if I teach you something that halfway through the year, it's no longer applicable? I think that's an amazing way to look at it. Props to you, so that's straight facts.
Thanks, man. All right. So I think that top point is wrapped up. Next on, Cal, is exams don't measure how well you actually understand the topic and how well you could apply it in real life.
Yeah. I don't know. Feels like there's a bit of truth in this. But once again, it's like, I guess for me, it's always frustrating to hear people complain and not have a solution. I don't have a solution, so you won't hear me complaining. I'm on that kind of end. It's like, if I'm gonna complain about exams being a terrible measure, then I gotta have something. I gotta offer some kind of solution, right? For me, I don't know. I think there is some truth in it. I think that's the bottom line. There is some truth in it, in a sense where when I started working at that little startup company, it's like say back in uni, they would assess me. I'd sit down for an exam, say a coding exam, like you got to code this in 30 minutes. Not allowed to look at your books or whatever like that. And then when I got to the job, it's like, okay, can you get me this feature up by next week? And it's like, he's not going to take away my resources. He's not going to be like, all right, disconnect the internet, do this thing for me. So there is validity in that. Like, yeah, exams are a bit weird. It's a bit weird in the sense where it's like, I'm not really going to have these kind of conditions in real life, maybe. And in real life, you tend to have all the resources available to you. So yeah, I guess that's the biggest difference that I saw. But I still think it's still one of the best things out there to do that, gets the job done, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like, I think this criticism is actually the one I agree with the most. I do really think that exams, you're not really gonna encounter these situations in real life, and they don't really assess how well you can actually apply what you've learned into like real life scenarios. But it is just a limitation of like our current technology is probably the way to put it. We just don't have the resources available to kind of design like very realistic assessments for every single subject, because it varies quite a bit, right? What's nice about exams is that they're easy to implement and they assess you at a good enough level to like test how much you know. But yeah, I think this is the biggest criticism I agree with, is exams don't measure how well you could actually apply knowledge to real life.
Yeah. And I mean, they've done their best to offer things like, and in the new syllabus, you see a lot of this as well, but they've done their best to broaden that spectrum. Definitely, as of recent, there are a lot of new type of assignments that students are receiving. Students are receiving things like more practical, a bigger focus on practical exams, a bigger focus on open book exams, just diversifying the exams in general. Now, as a tutor, I think it makes our life a little harder. We got to kind of like handle different types of exams, but for the greater good, it seems like a good thing for students, right? That they are kind of tested in like different environments or under different circumstances. But yeah, like, you know what, like, I think the given that you have to design, once again, a system that is supposed to be applied to every single student, exams are like just the easiest way out, and it gets the job done. I think that's the bottom line. It gets the job done. It's simple. Might not be perfect, but how can you design something scalable like that? It's so difficult. I think if you just sat down for a moment to try to design your own system, you'd be lost forever. Like, oh, let me design this really niche exam for this topic. Let me design this niche exam for this topic. You'd be there for decades, right? We need to get something out, educate these kids, right? Make sure that they have a decent proficiency. All right, sit them in an exam. I think that's good enough. And not too many gripes there, just because I'm seeing already a change right now. Some of the students that have like these depth studies now, and they have to kind of like one of the ones that really stuck out to me last year was some of my students had to do a poster. So like big research for one of their assessments, which was originally, say, an exam replaced for this depth study, where in that depth study they had to do a whole bunch of research on this topic and then present like a thesis poster. And the things that they were presenting, or the skills that they were learning through that one assessment, was exactly what I was doing in my final year for my honors thesis, right? My undergraduate thesis. And so, yeah, exams are a little outdated, but they're already kind of like switching things up. There is already a change on the horizon that I feel, which is good, which is a positive for everyone, I guess.
Definitely. Yeah, I think like them putting in that effort is like definitely to be appreciated. Okay, next one is, the schooling system is outdated and aims to churn out cogs in the machine.
Oh, this is very
This is a very aggressive one.
This is very like a very a very aggressive.
I've worded it aggressively, purposely.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the first thing I wanted to talk about with this was that again, school is here to provide you a baseline. It's not designed to like make you reach like your full potential, or it's not designed to make everyone reach their absolute full potential, and like smash it in every aspect of their life. Because at the moment, at least, I think that is a false ideal to strive towards. It's not realistic. So trying to strive towards that, you'll end up failing and leave the students worse off. I think what schools should be aiming to do, and what I think they are doing, is giving you a good baseline to work off, so that you can propel yourself from that afterwards, with your own efforts, right? Because you shouldn't expect to be taught out of the box thinking, like innovative thinking, from something so scalable, right? School, it needs to be fair. It needs to be evenly spread out between like all of the entire population, and you can't expect that this thing to like be able to adapt to every single student's needs to help you become like an amazing critical thinker, because those things are at odds with each other, right? You can't be like an innovator if you're learning what everyone else is learning. So I think that's just a false ideal to be striving towards. That's not what school is aiming to do. It's aiming to give you a baseline, if you want to call it, turning you into a cog in the machine. Sure.
So be it. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I think you spin facts, Justin. Like straight up, like a lot of times in life, I feel like students or people in general are just disappointed because there are certain expectations. You have these false expectations. You expect too much out of school, not in a bad way too. And it's not like school is lacking or school is being incompetent. It's just a matter of it is not practical for you to be expecting these things out of high school. Like high school, like you said, give you a baseline, because there are so many things out there that will need such different paths, right? Like if you want to actually go into a trade, then finishing at high school is a perfect time. Then you can go do your apprenticeship and things like that. It's a perfect point in the road where students can then branch off and do more specialized things. I think, going right up to year 10, 11, 12, that's a perfect time for students to be like, you know what, I want to pursue this completely random thing over here, or is a perfect time for you to be joining uni or whatever it is, right? It's just, I think, something that you can appreciate when you look back, or if you just take a moment to try to design something yourself. Like if you try to think up of a solution yourself, I think you'd run into issues immediately. And just having that expectation, I think students should have that expectation from the get-go. There wouldn't be so much of this stigma, this sentiment of schools are useless if they kind of, I guess if schools communicated themselves well enough to kind of let students know, hey, this is what we're here for, blah 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 blah. Maybe there wouldn't be so much backlash. But yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Just make sure your expectations are realistic. Okay, where, like I was saying before, you're not supposed to learn how to be an engineer by the time you're in year 12. No, like you're supposed to try to figure out what you're interested in and things like that. But you're not like, things aren't definitive at that age. Like try to leave as many doors open as possible, right? But yeah, the second you try to cater to everyone, it's like impossible to try to design a system. And so the system that they have is pretty decent. And I mean, that's what uni is for. If you want to do those things, you go to uni. You want to be more specific, go to uni and learn these other things. But being a cog in the machine, I don't know, it feels so depressing for people to say that. It's just maybe a bit of an exaggeration. I don't know. Feels like a bit of an exaggeration on my end.
It's like, I think it's like kind of true to an extent, but I think it's not a healthy way to look at it.
Yeah.
It's a very adversarial way to be looking at it.
Isn't that interesting? Like, you can just put like a positive spin on it. And like, I don't know, for me, it always felt like, hey, let me become like school's gonna make me an upstanding citizen so that I can contribute back to society and help others, right? I think that was always my take. So it's like, it's weird when people kind of put the blame on the system, like, oh, why haven't you taught me to be this? Why haven't you solved my life's like issues? It's like, those issues are your issues. You got to figure it out. Like, that's your life, right? We're going to do our best, or the school's going to do their best. But yeah.
I just had a realization as well. I think the thing that kind of irks me about this wording, and I'm sure like I read it somewhere, but then I came up with this wording, but I think that it touches on a thing, which is that it kind of indicates that this system is designed to keep me down. Is kind of the implication of like to churn out cogs in the machine, right? Which is, I think at least, completely untrue. I think the schooling system is doing its best to like put you in the best place possible, rather than, it's an oppressive regime to kind of keep you down, keep you uneducated, so that you don't like organize an uprising or something. Which I feel like I've been seeing this sentiment more and more recently. Where it's like, the government is kind of designing things to systematically keep like people down, and I
capitalism.
I just think it's untrue. I think it's just a limitation of like people are doing their best. They're not going to be perfect, and they might not even be very good. But I don't think they're purposely being oppressive.
Yeah.
Small tangent. Small tangent. Go ahead, Cal.
No. Sorry, go for it.
I was just going to move on to the next point.
Oh, okay, perfect. That's fine.
Okay, so the next section, a bit lighter, is what have we learned in high school that we found helpful in life afterwards?
Man, I don't know, am I too much of a simp for school? Like, why am I so nice? I feel like everything that I learned was quite helpful. Everything that I've learned, I'm grateful because it's shaped me into the person that I am today. Like, is that too airy-fairy, man? Like,
yeah.
I don't know, like, for me...
Let's narrow it down to, like, things that have actually, like, very, like...
very
actively played a part in your, like, in real life.
Okay, so, like, I ended up in engineering, and it's an extremely maths-heavy field, right? Doing 4 units of maths definitely helped. 100%. It definitely helped. Even if it wasn't like I'm doing the exact same questions. That's not what I mean. And that's a big misconception as well. It's just because you're not doing the exact same thing that you did in high school doesn't mean that it did not contribute. But learning 4 unit gave me like a lot of context going into engineering maths and stuff like that. And it definitely made me feel a lot more confident when you're around your peers and you feel like you're not on the back foot. You don't feel like you're behind. That helps a lot, like just to feel confident at uni. So definitely, maths was a big one for me. I don't...
And just touching on that one as well.
Yeah, go for it.
With maths, like a lot of the topics in 4 unit maths, we just didn't touch at uni. But again, it's the learning how to learn. We learned how to learn maths in high school, so that when we got to uni, we were like very well versed. Like, okay, I need to read a bit of theory, watch a bit of the lecture, and just pump out question after question, and that's how I'm gonna very quickly get good at maths. And I would even extend that to computer science, because I would say programming is relatively similar to maths in that it's very skill based. It's very technical. There's a right answer. In maths, there's more of a right answer. In programming, there's like an end result, but there's a lot of different ways to get there. I guess that's the same with maths as well. Maths and programming, very similar, and the skills of learning maths in high school transferred over to learning how to program.
That was the word I was looking for too. Transferable skills, man. We're teaching you transferable skills, like not trying to teach you something so niche that's going to lose all value out of the context of high school. It's like these things carry on. And that's so true. Like the things that I sucked at uni were the later year subjects that I didn't already know how to learn. Like learning how to in high school, I learned how to learn physics. I learned how to learn maths. So those things I absolutely killed. Okay, I didn't kill maths, but I absolutely killed physics in at uni. Even though I didn't know that content, it was just like, I know how to effectively and efficiently learn this type of thing very easily. So like I absolutely killed it, right? That's definitely really true. But I think the thing that always comes back, and I'm always so appreciative of, and I always see people give it so much hate, and so maybe that's why I'm so much of an advocate for it. Is English. And this is not life or death skills. These are skills that have improved the quality of living for me. It's just okay. So like say Oh man, this. I thought this was a light topic. This is gonna go. It's gonna go dark real quick.
Okay.
But you know, as when you grow up, the society that we live in, we are consumers. I don't think there's a way around it. We are consumers, right? You grow up to be a consumer of things, and I think the best thing that you can do for yourself is be a be a very mindful consumer, right? So and like I said, this is not life or death or anything like that. So I guess in that regard, it's not as important as other things, but I've always enjoyed right,
Um,
English.
yeah.
I just really appreciate English just because I feel like it allows me to make better decisions when consuming things. I'm not like a brainless consumer. That kind of scares me. To be a brainless consumer and just kind of like, oh, whatever, that kind of scares me in a sense. So like English taught me to just like appreciate the finer details in things like movies and things like books and just different mediums of art, I guess. Um, and I don't know, man. Like sometimes you watch a movie and it would just like really strike something really deep, and you wouldn't really have that experience if you didn't actually put effort into thinking about the context of the movie. If you were just kind of watching it at surface level. The thing that I'm really trying to avoid here is trying to come off like this elitist movie critic. I am not. I'm so far from that. I just like to enjoy things, and with English, especially senior English, year 11, year 12, it taught you to like how to interpret different types of things, right? Like, oh, how do you interpret this poem? How do you interpret this movie? How do you interpret this scene? This quote? I know it gets taken. I know there's a big joke. You know, a lot of people joke about it a lot. Like, oh, the curtains were blue, and so therefore the author thought about this. Blah 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 blah. I know that's a bit wild, but I have had so many times where I've watched a movie and I'm like, wow, I've had a greater experience of that, right? I've enjoyed that so much. I've had a great experience of these certain things because I'm able to think about those things. I'm able to look at it through those lenses that my English teacher kind of like helped me, I guess, put together. So I thought it's completely unnecessary, but I just thought it was something that I really enjoyed growing up,
Okay.
interpreting movies and
I
stuff
think I
like that.
see like where you're coming from now. Like at first I wasn't really sure what you're getting at, but like that really struck a chord with me just then,
Mm.
because often when I like consume a bit of media, like and like a song like hits me really hard, or like a movie, like a certain moment hits me really hard, right? Often it's just an emotion, and I think what English like allowed me to do is help me verbalize that thought, verbalize that emotion, kind of break it down. Like, why did that strike such a chord with me? Like, this metaphor, like, kind of compared like life to like this other thing, right, or
Yeah.
whatever. It gives you the tools to kind of describe and just
Yeah.
talk about like why it hit you so hard.
Right.
So yeah, no, very
Like
very fair point.
yeah, like no, that's basically it. I like that it allowed me a means to articulate how I feel instead of just being like I feel this way because then I think you become a reckless consumer. You become, you start to consume things you don't know why you enjoy them. I think when you know why you enjoy certain things, it allows you to better appreciate it and maybe even find more things that you enjoy, right? Kind of like zone in the thing that you like. But yeah, it's always like that. It's like I feel this way, right? And then sometimes when I don't have that grasp, I'll hear other people's opinions. It's like, and it will help me formulate. Okay, so that's kind of what I'm feeling, and that's why I guess I enjoy those things. I enjoy really articulate people. I don't have that. Like I was saying, I don't want to come off like I'm so well versed. No, I just found that to like really elevate my experience in a lot of things. Just being able to analyze and like articulate certain things.
And this is a bit of a tangent as well, but
Mm.
oh, that's one of my biggest pet peeves is when people, and it really is a pet peeve. It's like it's more on me than on other people,
Okay.
but it's when people can't verbalize their opinions properly. So like if someone says, "I like this food more than this food," and like I like to be able to ask, "Why do you like this food over that
Yeah.
food?" And they're just like, "It's better." And then that really gets on my nerves. And
But
again,
it's a
like I
pet
can't
peeve.
really
Let's
like
establish.
it's kind of unreasonable to expect people to be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I like this food because like it hits my palate this way
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever."
yeah. No one needs to be like
But
that.
still,
Yeah.
yeah, but like I really appreciate it when people are able to like sit down and think about it. Like,
Yes.
I like this because like I don't know, tomatoes. They're like my favorite like thing. I think it mixes really well with like the beef or whatever,
Yeah.
as opposed to it's just better. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
that doesn't like help me like interpret the world. I think
Yeah,
is
yeah,
the
for
problem.
sure. Yeah, for sure. Like it helps you, man. It's you go out there and like you gotta figure stuff out for yourself, and all of those little tools that you don't think are actually useful, they come in handy. I remember like the first movie I watched after HSC. Like I remember writing the last exam, and just like every other kid in high school, I'm assuming. I think most kids, just like most other kids, writing that last like essay. I think it was like I would have been an essay in the second paper, like writing that last paragraph, my last conclusion. I was like, I'm never gonna do this ever again, and I was so thankful because it obviously brought me a lot of pain that subject. But still, the first movie I went to watch, I completely forgot what it was, but I remember sitting there after the movie. I was like, whoa, I was really like able to just analyze a lot of those scenes, and I felt like I was able to just draw more out of that movie, right? And I kind of enjoy that, and it's something that kind of brings me a lot of joy. So it's very niche, very very specific thing that that I've just brought up. I know it's not like very important, but yeah, my experience, I guess.
Okay, and then the next section, it kind of ties into this. I'm going to shift these around a little bit. Things we wish we learned in high school, and I'm going to go first,
Yeah.
which is how to write. So, because this is related to English now,
Yeah.
I really feel like English did not prepare me to learn how to write properly. In
Yeah.
high school, I think, at least the way I was taught English, not very good. Because it really encourages you to like use like pompous words
Yep.
to like make yourself sound more, I don't know, make yourself sound smarter,
Sophisticated. Yeah.
make yourself sound more sophisticated, which is after like going to uni and like reading books about like learning how to write and like even getting in more practice afterwards. That's not the goal of writing, right? Fundamentally, the goal of writing is good communication. And that is like absolutely the opposite of what you want to be doing. You don't want to be like throwing in this flowery language to obfuscate like your meaning, which is often what at least like, I feel like how I was taught at school.
Yeah.
That was what was encouraged.
Yeah.
Real good writing, at least like non-fiction writing, is about clear communication, like no nonsense. You want it to be as simple as possible to convey effectively. Like you want to remove all of that like smoke, and let your reader understand you in the easiest way possible.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like when I started to really understand what writing was about. It's like, okay, fundamentally, that's our goal, and these are the tools that we use to achieve that goal. Whereas I guess in English, in school, I feel like I didn't understand the purpose of writing, right? It was like, it's to make myself look smart, which is no, that's a bad skill to have. That's bad writing.
Yeah.
Your writing should be effective communication. So that's
Damn.
what I wish I learned in school, learning how to write properly.
Yeah.
English taught us critical thinking skills, which was good. It gave us like tools to break things down and analyze things.
Yeah.
That was good. I don't think it taught us how to write. At least it didn't teach me how to write.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, yeah, I mean, I think we've had this conversation before where I was just like, where you brought up some things about the English language, and I'm like, I don't know how that works. I don't know how a semicolon works. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to all my English teachers. I don't know how to use those things, man. And it's like, I don't know what a phrase is. I don't know, like, the proper... Like, my sentences will be all janky, man. Like, that is so true. That's probably something I didn't pay enough attention in, or maybe they didn't really teach well enough or something like that. But yeah, English. For me, personally, I don't know. This is kind of hard because how would have I had like the foresight to see ahead of time and see that this is such a big thing? But doing like programming, I don't know, just like taking a programming subject, and the only real reason is not so that it could teach me anything amazing. It's just to kind of get my foot in the door early, because I think the biggest deterrent of my programming experience was just doing it at uni, and then seeing every kid there absolutely dominate you on the first week, and you're like, oh my lord, I'm gonna just give up. This is too hard because everyone is too smart already. Even though it
Yeah, I've
really
been
just took me a
programming
couple
since
weeks.
year 8.
Yeah, and you're like, oh my god, are you serious?
It's very intimidating.
It is 100%. I think so. Personally, this is a very personal one, but like, I think doing like a programming subject, that would have been nice to kind of like, you know, ease myself into it, and just kind of like, yeah, I guess have the context when going into uni. But what you were saying about critical thinking, man, just like reminded me, so many things, or so many times I feel in life, especially now as an adult, you kind of like, as you kind of like pave your way through and just fight your way through life, there are so many things out there, and I think a big topic these days is like misinformation. And so that's been on the forefront of my mind for like so long now, just like how people interpret or how people consume misinformation, kind of like reckless consumption, right? But I think at school, if you go through school and you learn all of these things properly, like we said right at the beginning, it's the implicit things that you learn, and it's the critical thinking. It's like the scientific method, like just being able to put things into context and kind of think smart, man. Just like not falling for silly things, right? I don't even know how to put it, because it comes not so natural for me, but it's something that I've worked on for a long time. And nowadays more than ever, it's so difficult to separate misinformation from what is true, what is false, right? And I think every time I think about that, it always comes back to, if kids were more educated, if you're a well-educated person, you should be able to tackle these things just better. Like it should not be that difficult to separate reality from rumors if you were just simply more educated or something like that. That's kind of like my way of thinking. And like even the scientific method, like, when you want to confirm something, if I truly believe something, I need to see evidence. I need to see this. There has to go through. There is a process. The scientific method is, if you have a hypothesis you want to confirm, you need to go through and find the results, do the experiments, and make the correct observations. And if the observations agree with your hypothesis, okay, then that hypothesis is true. I think nowadays things are so just, everyone's just like, oh, I saw this one article, I saw this thing, I saw that thing, and it's just like, there's no due process. And if you kind of think in a more logical way, you might avoid yourself all this trouble, all this misinformation out there. But yeah, that's basically it, I guess. Programming.
So being able to like programming and being able to like critically think, being able to like filter through information and having a process to like figure out what. Yeah.
Remember teachers used to be like, hey, your references, you got to understand that you can't trust all references. You can't trust all, like, it sounded silly, I know, because the only thing that they will teach you is never to use Wikipedia. But there was definitely a deeper lesson there, was there not? Like, of, hey, you can't trust everything you read. Like, there are ways to fact check. There are ways to, like, our teachers taught, like, oh, is it a government website? Is it, do you cross-reference the information? All of those skills, there's like soft skills almost. Those are the things that I think are so important, that so many people lack these days. And when I look at it, it's just like, oh man, I wish they had that. If people were just paid attention more, or kind of put more effort in at school, they might not be in like in this state right now, I guess. Yeah.
All right, cool. And then I think we're at the 1 hour mark, so let's wrap up this podcast with our song recommendations for this week, Cal.
I'll start.
Okay.
There's a song that I've been listening to. It's not Korean this time around, but it's called Brand New Draco. Draco. Yeah, Brand New Draco by 21 Savage. It's definitely a bit of Savage. Okay. Yeah, switching gears, but I'll be vibing. Yeah.
Okay. Brand New Draco by 21 Savage.
You're up, Justin. What is it this week?
My one is Magic by Lena Diaz. I just had it on my... No, it's decently old. I've had it on my playlist for a while,
Mm.
but it's just been on the back burner for my recommendations. I've been listening to it more, a lot more recently. It's just a very nice, chill song. Very cute song. And where did I even find it? I think I was watching a Twitch stream or something, and she just had it on, and it was like, oh, this song slaps.
Hits the spot.
Hits the spot. Hits the spot.
Got it.
All right.
Cool. Thanks, Justin.
All right. Thanks, Cal, and thank you everyone for listening.